Understanding the Middle East conflict, beyond Hamas and its origins. The Middle East conflict, particularly the Israeli-Palestinian issue, is one of the most intricate and enduring conflicts in modern history. A fixation on Hamas and its origins often oversimplifies and obfuscates the deeper, systemic issues at play. Palestinians are Arabs who have lived under Israeli occupation, and their plight cannot be understood without recognizing the broader context of historical oppression and resistance. Historical context and the birth of resistance. The Palestinian struggle cannot be viewed in isolation from the broader historical narrative of colonialism, displacement, and systemic oppression. Since the early 20th century, the Zionist movement, aimed at establishing a Jewish homeland, resulted in significant demographic and geopolitical changes in the region. The creation of the State of Israel in 1948 led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, an event Palestinians refer to as the Nakba, or catastrophe. This displacement created a significant refugee population and sowed the seeds of enduring conflict. When a population is cornered and systematically oppressed, they will inevitably organize and resist. This is not a unique phenomenon but a fundamental human response to injustice and subjugation. Palestinians, living under what they perceive as an occupation, have organized various forms of resistance, from peaceful protests to armed struggle. Hamas, while often labeled as a terrorist organization, emerged from this context as a response to the perceived failure of other Palestinian leadership to adequately address the needs and aspirations of the Palestinian people. Apartheid and inequality. Arabs living in Israel do not have the same rights as their Jewish counterparts. Human rights organizations, including Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, have described the situation as apartheid, a system of institutionalized racial segregation and discrimination. This system affects every aspect of life for Palestinians, from access to resources and employment opportunities to freedom of movement and political participation. The term apartheid, historically associated with South Africa, denotes a policy of segregation and economic and political discrimination against a racial group. In Israel, this manifests in various laws and policies that privilege Jewish citizens over Arab citizens and Palestinians. For instance, the nation-state law passed in 2018 enshrines the right to self-determination as unique to the Jewish people, effectively marginalizing the non-Jewish population. Revolutionary forces versus terrorism. Labeling groups like Hamas as terrorists without understanding the context of their formation and actions simplifies a complex reality. While their tactics, including rocket attacks and suicide bombings, are widely condemned and often result in civilian casualties, it is crucial to recognize these actions as part of a broader struggle against oppression. Historical parallels can be drawn to resistance movements in Europe during World War II when Nazi Germany occupied various countries. These resistance fighters, who used guerrilla tactics and sabotage, were seen as heroes fighting for their freedom despite their violent methods. The hypocrisy lies in condemning Palestinian resistance while celebrating similar movements in other historical contexts. The victims of Nazi Germany, many of whom found refuge and identity in the State of Israel, now criticize a revolutionary struggle in the Middle East. This criticism ignores the underlying causes of the conflict and the legitimate grievances of the Palestinian people. The broader conflict. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not merely a clash between Netanyahu and the Arabs. It is a broader struggle between Israel and the Middle East. Netanyahu's policies and actions are reflective of a larger strategic approach endorsed by the majority of the Jewish population in Israel. The Israeli political landscape, characterized by a range of parties with varying degrees of hawkishness, generally supports policies that ensure the security and Jewish identity of the state, often at the expense of Palestinian rights and aspirations. Even if Netanyahu were no longer the prime minister, it is unlikely that Israel's fundamental policies and strategies would change significantly. The systemic issues and the entrenched positions on both sides suggest that the conflict will persist as long as these underlying factors remain unaddressed. Conclusion. To understand the Middle East conflict, it is essential to look beyond the immediate actors like Hamas and consider the historical, social, and political context. Palestinians are not from another planet. They are people who have lived under occupation and systematic oppression. Their resistance, while often violent, is a natural response to their circumstances. Addressing the conflict requires acknowledging these realities and working towards a solution that respects the rights and humanity of all involved. The path to peace lies not in the vilification of one side, but in understanding and addressing the root causes of the conflict.